Welcome to Come Railfan with Me, episode 14. I'm Steve Boyko. In this episode of Come Railfan with Me, I will talk about how I chased a westbound CP freight from Winnipeg to Marquette, Manitoba, and then chased a eastbound freight back to Winnipeg. This is a different format for me, so I hope you like it, and on with the show. I started out early in the morning in Winnipeg before sunrise because I wanted to go to the CP main line and try to catch some early morning freights. They're known for having freight trains come through early in the morning, then nothing in the mid to late morning, so I thought I'd better get up there early. On the way, I stumbled across a CN freight train heading east into Winnipeg. So I set up at a crossing and took a couple of long exposure photos to document it because it was still quite dark. And this is the first one. This is the locomotive going through. You can see the headlights coming in from the left side. And then here's part of the train blazing through the crossing. I like long exposure photos. I'm not sure these ones are particularly great, but it was something to try. So, on to CP. When I got up to the CP main line, what I noticed was that near the Patterson grain elevator, just in the northwest corner of Winnipeg, there was a long line of grain cars sitting there. And the west end had no locomotive on it, but it did have the flashing end device. So I thought, well, to myself that the locomotives must be on the east end. So I drove along the grain cars looking for the head end of the train. On the way, I spotted these two K+S Potash Canada cars, and I'd never actually photographed any of these before, so I figured I might as well stop and grab them. And then I continued on to the other end, and there was no locomotive there either, which was kind of odd. So there was a long string of freight cars, not just grain cars, but freight cars, and no locomotive at either end. So I ended up having to do a big loop to come back because of the way the roads are there. And by the time I got back there, there was a pair of locomotives that had backed onto the west end of the train. And you could see the conductor on the ground there coming back to the locomotive. So what had actually happened was that the train had coupled on, and the train was just starting to slowly move to pick up the conductor, and so I was panning the locomotive. So that was the first one, and it was nice to catch a heritage unit, one of these 7000 ST70 HCU locomotives on the train, and it was nice to see it leading. It was really weird, though, to see the 7000 leading with one of these eco units, the 2219, trailing, because you never really see those in combination. Those eco units are normally more like local switching locomotives. That one. So it was weird to see it, but I think what happened was that that locomotive was dropped in Portage la Prairie, along with the refrigerated cars that followed it. There's a couple of customers in the Portage la Prairie area that receive and send stuff via the refrigerated boxcars. So I think that's why this locomotive was on the train. So they got underway, and they weren't going very fast, so I had a couple of opportunities to stop and pan it. So I really like how this one turned out. This is a pretty good pan. And then I got up to the Viterra grain elevator just west of the perimeter highway. You can see the overpass, the perimeter highway there in the distance. And so here's the train coming. Not a great shot, pretty blurry, but I wanted to capture the whole train. And I panned it going by the Viterra grain elevator. I did some fairly heavy photo editing to this photo to highlight the locomotive, and I think it turned out okay. So at this point, normally it's hard to chase a westbound train along here, even though the highway parallels the track. there's a couple of spots where you have to, there's one spot through Rosser where you have to slow down to 50 kilometers an hour, and there's a part where the highway swings far away from the track and comes back, so you lose a little ground there. So I really wasn't expecting to be able to chase this train again. However, I did manage to catch up to it at Meadows and recorded it here. Now, I had enough time to get my drone into the air. You can see the drone above the locomotive and a little bit to the left of it in this photo. I didn't have time to set up a video camera on the ground to record any sound, so all I have is the drone video. And so what we have here is there's my video camera that I put on the ground, but I didn't have a chance to turn it on. And here's the drone video. And see if I can play it. Here we go. So there's no sound for this, so I'll just talk over it. So the drone is basically hovering over where the elevator, grain elevator, used to be at Meadows. That was demolished a couple of years ago. And there's the refrigerated boxcars. There's a series of them there. And so that head-end stuff is probably for Portage la Prairie. And then the rest of the train is general freight cars, potash cars, and grain cars, and tank cars, and so on, that are heading west. So this elevator track here that the drone is hovering over is basically just used for general storage right now. It is not, there's no elevator there, so occasionally you'll see a maintenance away vehicle shoved into there. Good Friday of cars. There's those two blue K+S cars, tank cars, gondolas with scrap in them, and a lot of green cars in the tail end. These are old Government of Canada green cars, quite a few of them in one train. And yeah, the rest of it is just green cars. And then pan the tail end of the train and then carried on. So again, I was not really expecting to see the train again because it tends to go pretty fast. But as we approached Marquette, I noticed that they had didn't have a green signal. They had a diverging signal, or a clear to stop signal, I think is what they had. So basically they had to slow down because they were meeting a train. But I had one more opportunity to capture them along the way, another pan. And then at Marquette, they had a meet. So there was a train already in the siding, waiting for them at Marquette. the crew was on the ground to do the roll-by inspection. So here's the wide shot of the train approaching with the sunrise starting in the east and the signals there. I really like this one. This is kind of a wider view of the train as it approached with the crew giving the wave as they go by. And then I cropped it in a little bit just to more emphasize the crew giving the wave. And I think that's my car there. No, I was just going to say, is that my car on the other side of the tracks behind the locomotive, but it's not. And there's the meat even a little closer. I didn't like this photo quite as much because you've got the pole sprouting up from the locomotive's roof. And then here they are as they're passing the standing freight train. They weren't going very fast along here, so I had a couple of opportunities where I was driving along parallel to them on the highway, or I'd get ahead of them and then photograph them again. So this is at the tail end of the standing freight train. The westbound is going on the main line in between the standing freight train in the back and a couple of gondolas in the back track at Marquette. So it's kind of threading the needle going between the cars. So I really liked how this pan turned out. And then there they are passing the tail end locomotive of the standing freight train. By this time, the sun is starting to come out, so it's a little brighter, and I could get a little quicker shut. And that was the last I saw of that train. I left off at Marquette because the highway diverges from the main line quite a bit, so you definitely would lose a lot of ground and maybe never catch up to the train again before it reached Portage. So at this point, I turned my attention to the eastbound and followed it. So I got ahead of it and shot it several times as it left Marquette with the morning sun in the face. I really liked how that turned out. I wish this photo had turned out a little better because you've got the Marquette station sign to the right, but I overexposed it. And here they are a little closer, stirring up some birds. Not quite in focus here. And then this one turned out really nicely. Good sharp focus. And I blurred the faces of the crew there because I want to respect their privacy. But there's the train heading east into the sunrise. And then as I got closer, I put my camera away and got out my phone and grabbed a quick shot with my phone as they passed by. You can see my selfie shadow on the bottom left. So at this point, I threw everything in the car, took a going away shot into the sunrise, and then I threw everything in the car and ahead to the end of Meadows siding, the east end of Meadows siding, and here they are rolling through there. And there's their tail end as they passed by Meadows. And again, at this point, I was thinking, well, I might be able to catch up with them one more time in Winnipeg. So I chased them into Winnipeg. But before that, I had this video that I took at Meadows, a combination of the ground video and the drone. And this one does have sound, so I'm going to stop talking at the beginning, and you can just listen. So the sound wasn't synchronized with the drone because the drone and the camera were not in the same place. The drone was closer to the siding, so there's a little delay in the sound, in case you're wondering. Okay, and I did catch up with the tail end in Winnipeg, and recorded this shot of them going into the sunrise. I kind of like the streaks of the clouds above the train, and that was the last I saw of that train. So at that point, I decided, well, I've pushed my luck enough with CP. I'm going to head back down to CN, see what I can see there, and then head home. In doing so, I missed a eastbound CP freight that I didn't know was there. It had, I think, one of the military units on the head end, which would have been nice to photograph, but you can't catch them all. So on to CN, and what I saw at CN was an eastbound freight train coming into Winnipeg, meeting a westbound going out. And so the eastbound coming in, I barely caught and chased it into Winnipeg to try to record it, but I never really got to the head end, and because of that, I didn't quite get a good shot of it. But I did get the meat in the trees here. As the train went by, I took a side shot of each of the locomotives. The train was interesting, and it had 4 locomotives that are all different types. So you've got this, which I think is an ES44 DC maybe. This one, which is an SD70. This one, which is a -9, the CN North America logo. And this one, which is, I think, one of those ex-BNSF locomotives. So different variety of locomotives. And then I chased them out to Diamond, just west of Winnipeg, and recorded here. Here's the locomotive going across the Diamond. So at Diamond, the 2-track CN mainline intersects with the CP Glenboro sub, which is the single track that's in the photo. And here I recorded a video as well. So here it goes. And that's the train. Oh, my apologies. That's the train. The video came again. So that's the end of the show. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like this video, and have a great day.